What's up, guys? Back with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan a little bit. Brett Cooper was on the podcast of, it's called the Iced Coffee Clips podcast, and they were having a chat about Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan. They only talked about Joe Rogan for a little bit, but it was like mainly Andrew Tate. It's only about like a 7 minute clip, so let's go ahead and get into it.
What do you think of Andrew Tate?
You know, I think that he's done good. I watch his clips and I think that he's done a lot for, some young men. I think he's an interesting figure. I think he's started a lot of really important conversations. Do I think that he is like a masculine role model? No, I don't. And I think partially because I just don't love that lifestyle. I look at a man and I don't qualify his masculinity because of how rich he is or how fast of a car he has or how many high, S tier women he's able to get.
Even if it's a Bugatti, though.
Well, yeah, do not care. But, I would rather you drive a truck or some kind of Bronco and be a normal guy and have really great values. And I don't care how many cigars you smoke. And so I think that kind of turns me off a bit. Maybe that's very superficial, but I'm I just don't, you're not appealing to me. But I understand that guys like that. And I understand that it's cool for them and that sort of thing. And maybe you can, I don't know what you think about him, but I know I have guy friends who are oh, he's so cool. He's making me feel empowered and he's speaking to me.
Part of me.
Andrew Tate is definitely a masculine figure. And there's probably masculine, extra masculine, and then Andrew Tate, top G type masculine. And it's probably cool to, fall somewhere in between, or maybe a little bit more towards the, very masculine. And then there's Andrew Tate at the top. But, Andrew Tate is, I'm sure he's a guy who has helped a lot of young men get out of a lot of rough patches in life by just talking to him or just saying something profound in the live chats or the live streams that he's done in the past. But ultimately, I can agree with her. All the cigar smoking, all the live streams with no shirt and the cigars and the Bugattis and the money and all that kind of stuff, it's not exactly something you want to strive to be, in my opinion. Because honestly, who knows? Andrew Tate may have some kids and may have a wife. He may have multiple kids and multiple wives. I don't think anybody really knows. But the way he projected his life was no kids, no wife. I'm just top G. Everything revolves around me. Be like me, have money, Bugattis, and life will be good, right? I don't think that that's, a good message to be promoting to impressionable kids who are probably in a drought as far as, wanting to pursue women or something like that. But Andrew Tate, gives a good message to, kids when it comes to workout, when it comes to better yourself, go out and have an idea, run with it, and get some money. Granted, I haven't listened to a lot of Andrew Tate. I've listened to a little bit, a couple of his live streams, but generally speaking, I feel like Andrew Tate is a good example of stoicism for a man. Not exactly masculinity, but stoicism. He never gets. I've never seen him get super angry or super offensive or super butthurt because somebody said something to him that he didn't like. I've never seen Andrew Tate. There's a lot of allegations with him, mistreating women and all that kind of stuff. But I never really seen him, fight a woman or be in those kind of, situations where he's let women, dictate his life. Now, the trial that he has, or the charges that he's been brought up on, that has to do with a lot of women in traffic, sex trafficking and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Who knows? I don't really follow it that close. All I know is that Andrew Tate has helped men, be better men. Some men be better men, but still he can be a very toxic individual. I can say, especially with all the what was it called, Hustlers University and that kind of weird stuff, teaching men how to get their own harem of women to do cam work for them and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is weird. That stuff is weird. I don't agree with that. But as far as the message that he gives to men, hey, I know it's hard right now, but if you focus on this, that, and the third, it'll get better. I like that message that he gives.
Shocked that people can't see, like I see in terms of politics, I see both sides equally, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I love these things about this,
Yeah.
and I love these things about this, and we could like bring them together. But I don't identify necessarily with one or the other. I just kind of pick and choose bits and pieces, but I do the same thing with people. It's like I might disagree with some things they say, but I'm like, that one thing, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I'll pick and choose from that.
And
Do you
I
think
think
people
that
have the
some of his-
ability to do that, though? Because it seems like now it's less about saying, I like this one thing about
Yeah.
this person, and I agree with like
I think
taking
it's hard.
accountability.
I think
love
people
that
are
with-
more closed-minded when they get a little bit younger, though. So, like, I think like our generation, Gen Z, is like they like you either hate
It's
them or
black
you
or
love
white.
them.
Yeah.
But for an older generation, I feel like it's much different. There's
Same
more
old,
gray.
Like I
I feel like that's a good point, and there's no way you can get younger. You just are younger. That kind of threw me off when he said that, but I do feel like the older generations older than me, they probably thought a similar way than when they were my age or when they were in their 20s. So as you get older, you learn things. You learn what is good, what is bad, how to take from the good or how to take from a collection of what somebody says and pick out the good things in it and roll with that. Sometimes you take out the trendy stuff when you're younger and you roll with that because that's what just everybody else is doing. You can't really think for yourself on what is good and on what is bad. So you just, you take what everybody else is doing because you want to fit in.
older.
Am I older?
You're a
than-
millennial, right?
I'm millennial.
Different
you are
techno.
older. There you go.
True.
Like I got flamed. Actually, it wasn't terrible, but I definitely did see some pushback in my comments because I was talking about Jeffree Star, and he, was talking about, gender binary and that kind of thing, and he came out and he was saying like the they them stuff, it just doesn't make sense. And he's also spoken out against, gender transitions for children, saying they're not ready for that sort of thing. And so I made a video and I said, obviously this YouTuber has a lot of controversy. He's done a lot of stuff. People hate him for many reasons. But this is something that we can commend, at least that my audience can commend. He's saying protect children. There we go. And people were like, no, but he's done all this other stuff. And I don't like him. I'm not like, rah, Jeffree Star, I love all your videos. But I'm like, hey, that was a good thing. And I think some, conservatives also think that means like you're bending the knee, you're compromising your values. I'm like, no, I'm not becoming a fan. I'm just acknowledging when somebody does something that, might be beneficial for a listener, might open up their eyes to something new. And I think it's the same thing with Andrew Tate, like you're saying. His lessons and his messages of, taking accountability as a young man and speaking to young men and saying, I know it's hard for you right now. I know that, modern feminism, tells you need to be effeminate and like all of this stuff. Like, I know it's tough, but here are some of the things that you could do. Do I like the way he speaks about women? No, I don't. I think it's very weird. And obviously, there's a lot of back and forth about what he was doing in Eastern Europe or whatever. I don't love the way that he's spoken about that. Like, I remember he said, I think it was about sex trafficking or no, it was like, he doesn't condone rape, but, in some countries it's technically legal. So, and I was like, well,
Right.
like there's so
Well, that's a weird thing to say, Andrew Tate. And if I ever heard him say that crap, like, whoa, that's awkward, bro. But this makes me think of like the black community. Like, there's so many imitators of like the black community. Like, I'm not saying that people can't take specific things from different cultures and adopt them into their everyday life or whatever and try to mimic it or whatever. Like, we should be able to share the culture, but some things that people take from the culture are just bad for anybody. Like, from the people taking twerking from the black culture, it's not cute. It's weird to just do it. Like only people who like seeing that are people that you probably wouldn't really want to be around 24/7. So like, you don't want to exactly take certain bad things that people are doing in certain groups and apply it to your life and say like, oh, this is going to make my life better somehow. I completely, agree with that.
But I think he's had viral moments, and I think he has started important conversations online. Maybe that's how I would kind of frame it.
Yeah.
Definitely. He has definitely started some important conversations. Like maybe a conversation about how women only chase the top elite of men. And I think maybe that's probably a conversation that Kevin Samuels probably started, or somebody maybe like Kevin Samuels before Kevin Samuels, and it really got people's eyes open to the type of men that women chase, and really maybe even opened up some women's eyes to, hey, you are chasing, the man that everybody wants, every woman wants. Like, because if you want him for this, that, and the third, she's definitely going to want him for this, that, and the third too. So, and I don't think there's anything really necessarily wrong with that, but you have to realize that this man has a lot of options. So there's consequences with going after that man that everybody else wants, right?
I would agree with that. I think he's a disruptor, and I think disruptors are extremely needed because it's super easy to
That's
just
a good
go
way
with
to
the
put
flow.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind
And
of
it's fine.
like
He gained a lot more power than I feel like you should probably give to a disruptor just in general, because usually disruptors are more extreme, and you don't want someone
they
super
pop
extreme
in
to
every
be like
once in a while.
exactly. But there's more gravitational pull with people that are extreme like him, so it makes sense. What I noticed with Andrew Tate, people that like are around me that are like big Andrew Tate fanboys, is the fact that he kind of gave that whole victimhood mentality to dudes, which a lot of people don't really see, but that's what I saw, because he was like, it's hard to be a dude. Dudes are depressed at rates that have never been seen before and stuff like that. And guys are like, oh my God, and everybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to say everybody wants to be a victim,
Well,
but a lot of people, it's easy to be a victim because then you have an excuse. So people were like,
And I
okay,
think-
yeah, this sounds good. And then he's like, but there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, wow, that's cool. And
Yeah.
every dude wants to be a hero,
I
and
think-
he's
Also playing
basically
into the
teaching
fear.
you how to be
Playing
a
into the-
I can see that. I can see that, he's probably pointed out the issues with what's going on, because a lot of men are going to be virgins until they're probably, well into their mid-20s or something like that, statistically nowadays. So he was pointing out why that stat even exists. But it is going to be okay, because, hey, I got the tools to give you to be able to navigate you through all that heartache and pain that you get when women reject you, or you just can't get a date or something like that. And I can go completely, I can kind of agree with him when he says that that's being a victim. I think that I just wouldn't say victim. I would just say he's just pointing out the issues, because this is what statistics say. He's just pointing out the issues about what young men are really going through, and how to actually get through it. Wouldn't exactly call that making people a victim. And this reminds me of the black community again. Like, black people are constantly talking about like, we have systemic racism, which is probably true. Back in the day, we were slaves, and it, brought over to this country, and we were released into the wild with no good job prospects or no land to own or anything like that. Those things are probably true, but why are we still talking about it today? Why are we still talking about it? A lot of people like to talk about it and not give solutions. That's a victim.
Fear.
But I think he offers some like solutions. I think he acknowledges like, things are tough, and I think you brought up an important point, because I kind of struggle with, talking to, my audience of like young men and young women and saying like, you have it really bad and this like society is so screwed up, but I try to make it pretty even. Talking about like the boy crisis, because I also think that there is a huge like young woman crisis. Like, there's a reason why the majority of young people transitioning right now are girls. Like, there's a reason why like I think girls committing suicide at a young age is now above. I mean, it's like girls have so many issues. As like a young girl, I knew what it was like. I understand going through puberty and literally feeling like you don't belong in your body and what's going on and all of this stuff. But I think only telling people that you are a victim and that people hate you is not the best. And so I do think with things like Andrew Tate, it was like, I wish that he had offered more solutions in a way of like,
All it was like get
Get-
rich buying my program
Oh,
and
well,
also work out, which is great.
was
Yes.
get a
think-
six-pack.
Yes.
That was very
Yeah, get a
interesting
six-pack.
advice. So
How much advice can he give other than that? He's not a psychiatrist. I mean, he can sit down and talk to you and give you examples on what he did and the path that he took. But how much advice can he give you? I mean, like, I'm pretty sure he did say, "Oh, you're going through that. Oh, you probably want to, commit suicide. Okay, like, well, you need to go to a therapist. I can't help you with that. You need to go talk to a medical professional because all I can really tell you is join my program, go to the gym, get a six-pack." Like, so I don't think there really is much other than that than an influencer can really tell a young person without stepping over a line.
But it's like
I think
go,
that's good.
but at
I
the end of
mean,
the
I
day,
agree,
it's-
I
it's
agree.
go to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the gym and bring value.
Yeah.
But also get rich and get like a harem of women, which
Yeah.
I feel like
This
is
is like, okay.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
okay, we can take what we
But-
what the ideas that we
But
want
by
to serve
making
us.
money, you're
Yeah.
adding value in some
Yes.
way. It can
You're
be
being a productive member
yeah,
of society.
It could bring a lot of purpose depending on what you're doing. If you're adding value to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
could be setting goals.
I don't think money brings purpose.
But I'm saying
Per se.
if you're
I
doing
think
something
the way
of value,
that you are making
yeah.
money.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I would agree with that.
Not the money itself, but like
Yeah.
to bring value, you
Unless
have to
you're
be
then
doing
investing
something
it in something
to
else or building
society.
something.
You have to be doing something of value, hopefully,
Yeah.
Mhm.
to do that.
No, I think that there are really good takeaways and really poor takeaways for Tate. Absolutely. Yeah.
But
No
I
doubt.
think the best way that you said it was a disruptor, and
No
I agree
doubt.
we need more of those because I think people get so caught up in this very polarized groupthink. And I think if one person on other sides pops through and is like, I disagree with this, and it causes like massive whatever, it starts conversations. Whether or not that changes people's minds, I think polarizing figures like Joe Rogan is a great example, and he's somebody that's kind of wrote it really well. I think. Of like he's unafraid to say things that are super controversial and have people on that are controversial and opening up those conversations, and he'll say something every once in a while that people are like, oh my god, but you like him so much now he's gained this audience, and it's like, okay, you respect it. But I think having those people pop up is so important for this culture where everybody is so terrified to say something that is out of line.
Yeah, I really want to touch on her last point right there about people not wanting to say things because they're afraid to get canceled or they're afraid to just get in trouble by the woke mob or whatever. Like I feel like it's so incredibly important when you have the platform and you have a topic brought to you to speak up about whatever it is, especially when it can affect a whole group of people who probably don't have as big of a voice as you do. And if it can help people, then you definitely need to speak up. I get it, people are afraid to be canceled because they'll lose their platform, or they won't be able to take care of their family, or they'll get this, that, and the third taken away from them. But there needs to be a little bit of bravery in there. And if you have a big enough platform, you have the opportunity to be able to rely on the audience that you've gained since then. And I think that's something that Joe Rogan really understands. He understands that his platform and his fan base are diehards, and he can go onto his podcast, say pretty much whatever he wants, have whoever he wants on there, and be okay. It's like I think they've tried to cancel Joe Rogan a lot, but Joe Rogan still does these podcasts that are 3 hours a day and still says whatever he wants and still just moseys on along and doesn't really worry about cancel culture. So, more of the story, be smart about who you listen to and be smart about what advice you take from people. Like, it's really hard to give advice upon that because people think in so many unique, different type of ways. So you can't really tell people like, hey, listen to this person, he says everything right. Listen to that person, he says everything right. Or listen to this, don't listen to that person because they say everything wrong. Only thing that I would say is, don't try to go with the crowd all the time. Try to be your own individual and think for yourself. If you catch yourself going with what everybody else is doing or going with what's trendy, then maybe you will fall into some traps sometimes and have to dig your way out. But yeah, And don't be afraid to speak up and say something when you have the opportunity to make change. If it can help people, you have a big enough platform and people can hear you say these things that will help a people that, you know, is marginalized, then say it. Say it. This country was built off of free speech, and we should definitely continue that. Alright, this video's went on pretty long. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you again.